Daeho walked through the busy New Seoul spaceport with his backpack hanging off one shoulder. The 17-year-old boy had been working part-time at a small shop near the spaceport for 3 months now. Every day he saw hundreds of different aliens walking through the massive building. Some were tall and scary-looking. Others were small and moved in groups. A few looked almost human, but with strange colors or extra arms. Today felt different, though. As Daeho walked toward the food court for his lunch break, he noticed something that made him stop walking. On a metal bench near the main waiting area sat an old alien woman. She looked very small and alone. The woman had blue skin that looked like it was made of thin glass. Her hair was long and silver, hanging down to her shoulders. She wore simple gray clothes that seemed too big for her tiny body. In her hands she held a strange crystal that glowed with soft light. The crystal hung from a chain around her neck. What made Daeho stop was not just how she looked. It was how everyone else acted around her. Aliens of all kinds walked past the bench. Big reptile-like creatures with green scales ignored her completely. Flying aliens that looked like birds with 4 wings moved far around her. Even the robot workers from the cleaning crew seemed to avoid that part of the waiting area. Daeho watched for 10 minutes. The old woman just sat there looking lost and confused. Sometimes she would look up hopefully when someone walked near, but every single alien would look away quickly and walk faster. Some even moved to the other side of the wide hallway to stay far from her. A group of tall aliens with insect-like faces walked by. They saw the woman and started making clicking sounds to each other. Daeho could not understand their language, but their body movements looked angry or scared. One of them pointed at the woman and shook its head strongly. Even stranger, Daeho noticed that human travelers also avoided her. A human family with 2 children walked past. The mother pulled her kids closer and hurried them along when they got curious about the glowing crystal. A businessman in a suit saw the woman, frowned, and took a completely different path to his gate. Daeho felt confused and a little angry. Why was everyone being so mean to this old lady? She looked harmless. Actually, she looked sad and lost. In Korean culture, old people deserved respect and help. His grandmother always told him to be kind to elders, no matter who they were. He decided to get closer. As he walked toward the bench, he heard 2 alien security guards talking in Galactic Standard language. Daeho had learned some of this common space language in school. "Still there?" said one guard. He looked like a tall blue elephant walking on 2 legs. "3 days now," replied the other guard. This one had rough gray skin like a rock. "No one will help her." "Good," said the first guard. "Better that way. You know what happens to those who help the cursed ones." "The ancient burden," agreed the rock-skinned guard. "Let her sit until she gives up and leaves." They walked away, talking quietly. Daeho felt even more confused. Cursed ones? Ancient burden? What did that mean? He looked at the old woman again. She was trying to read something on a small device, but her hands shook too much. The device kept falling from her fingers. Each time it fell, she would pick it up and try again. She looked tired and frustrated. That was enough for Daeho. He walked straight to the bench and sat down next to her. The woman looked up at him with wide eyes. Her eyes were the same blue color as her skin, but they seemed to glow with their own light. "Hello," Daeho said in Galactic Standard. His pronunciation was not perfect, but he tried his best. "Do you need help?" The woman stared at him for a long moment. Tears began to form in her glowing eyes. She said something in a language he did not know. Then she tried again in broken Galactic Standard. You speak to me?" she asked. Her voice was very quiet and shaky. "Yes," Daeho said. "Are you okay? You look lost." More tears came down her blue cheeks. "Lost, yes, very lost. Cannot find way home. Device broken." She held up the small machine she had been trying to use. Daeho looked at the device. It looked like a translation unit, but the screen was cracked. "I can help you," he said. "I have translator app on my phone." As soon as he said this, several aliens nearby made strange noises. A group of purple aliens with tentacles instead of arms moved quickly away from the bench area. 2 human passengers who had been sitting nearby got up and left. Even some of the cleaning robots changed their paths to avoid that section of the spaceport. The old woman noticed this too. No, she said quickly. "You should not help. Others know, they fear. You should go away from me." "Why?" Daeho asked. "You seem nice." "Why is everyone scared of you?" The woman looked down at her hands. "Because of what I am, what I carry. The responsibility that killed my people. Deho did not understand what she meant, but he could see she was in pain. Not body pain, but heart pain. The same look his grandmother had when she talked about family members who had died. I do not care what others think, Deho said firmly. My grandmother taught me to help old people who need help. Are you hungry? When did you last eat? The woman looked shocked. You would give me food? Of course, Deho said. He stood up and held out his hand. Come on. There is a good noodle place in the food court. We can talk there. The old woman stared at his hand for a long time. More tears fell down her face. Finally, she took his hand with her small, shaky fingers. Her skin felt cold but somehow comforting. As they walked together toward the food court, Deho heard whispers and strange sounds from other aliens. Some sounded worried. Others sounded angry. A few sounded scared. But Deho kept walking. He had made a decision to help and he would not change his mind. The old woman walked slowly beside him. She kept looking up at his face like she could not believe what was happening. What is your name, kind young one? She asked. Deho, he said. What is your name? I am called Velna, she replied. I am the last of my people, the Luminari. And you, Deho, may have just changed the fate of your entire galaxy. Deho's apartment was small and simple. He lived with his older sister Boram in a 2-room place near the spaceport. Boram worked as a translator for alien visitors, so she was good with different languages and cultures. But when Deho walked through the door with Velna beside him, Boram's face turned very angry. What are you doing? Boram asked in Korean. She looked at Velna with worry and fear. Why did you bring an alien here? Deho explained what had happened at the spaceport. He told her how everyone ignored the old woman and how she seemed lost and hungry. Boram listened, but her face stayed angry. You do not understand, Boram said. She switched to Galactic Standard so Velna could hear. Other aliens avoid her for a reason. There are stories about her people. Bad stories. Velna sat quietly on their old couch. She looked very tired and small. The crystal around her neck still glowed softly, making strange shadows on the walls. What stories? Deho asked. Boram looked uncomfortable. At work I hear things. The Luminary people were connected to something dangerous. Something that brings bad luck to anyone who helps them. That is why they all died out. No one would help them when they needed it. That is cruel, Deho said. She is just an old lady. I am sorry, Velna said quietly. Her Galactic Standard was getting better as she listened to them talk. Your sister is wise to be careful. Many species have suffered because they tried to help my people. I should leave. She started to stand up, but Deho gently pushed her back down. No, you are staying. Boram, look at her. She is scared and alone. What if this was our grandmother? Boram looked at Velna more carefully. The old luminary woman did look very much like their grandmother had before she died. Small, fragile, but with kind eyes. Boram's anger started to fade. What happened to your people? Boram asked, sitting down across from Velna. Velna's glowing eyes filled with sadness. We were the guardians. For thousands of years, my people watched over something very important. Something that keeps all the galaxy safe. But the job was heavy, hard to carry. Other aliens started to fear us because of what we protected. What did you protect? Deho asked. Velna touched the crystal around her neck. I cannot explain easy. But imagine a great wall that keeps monsters away from all the worlds where people live. My people built this wall long ago. We kept it strong and working. But the wall needs constant care. And the work slowly killed us, Boram frowned. Killed you how? The machines that make the wall work need a special kind of mind to control them. A mind that can feel pain for all living things, even strangers. A mind that will give up its own life to save others. My people had such minds, but using them this way made us weak and sick. Deho and Boram looked at each other. This sounded like science fiction stories, but Velna seemed very serious. Other aliens saw how the work hurt us, Velna continued. They decided it was better to stay away from us. They thought if they helped us, they would have to take on the same job, the same pain. So they let us die alone, one by one. But what happens to the wall now? Boram asked. Velna's face became very sad. It is breaking. Without my people to take care of it, the wall gets weaker every day. Soon the monsters from outside will come through. They will eat entire star systems. Billions will die. The room became very quiet. Deho felt a cold feeling in his stomach. How long before the wall breaks completely? Maybe 6 months. Maybe less. Velna looked at both of them. I came to this spaceport looking for someone. Someone who might be willing to learn how to fix the wall. Someone with the right kind of mind. What kind of mind? Deho asked. Velna smiled for the first time since they met her. It was a sad smile, but warm. A mind like yours, Deho. You saw an old stranger in trouble, and you helped her even when everyone else said not to. That is very rare in the galaxy. Boram stood up quickly. No. Whatever you are thinking, no. Deho is just 17. He has his whole life ahead of him. I am not asking him to die, Velna said gently, but I am asking if he would be willing to learn, to understand what the choice really means. What choice? Deho asked. Velna was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, the choice to take care of the wall requires giving up a normal life. The person who does this job must connect their mind to the machines. They feel the pain of everyone in the galaxy when bad things happen. They must be ready to sacrifice themselves to keep others safe. It is why other species fear us. They do not want that responsibility. Deho thought about this. It sounded scary, but also important. What if no one takes the job? Then the wall falls completely. The monsters come through. Everything dies. Boram sat back down, looking very worried. There has to be another way. What about the Galactic Council? The military? Scientists? Velna shook her head. We tried. For hundreds of years, we begged other species to help us or learn from us, but they all refused. They said it was our curse to carry. Some even said it was better for the galaxy if the wall fell, as long as they did not have to be responsible for it. That is horrible, Deho said. Fear makes people cruel. Velna agreed, but kindness can make them brave. That is why I have hope when I look at you, young Deho. Boram looked at her brother with fear in her eyes. Deho, please think carefully about this. If what she says is true, this could change your whole life. If what she says is true, Deho replied, and I do nothing, then everyone in the galaxy dies, including us. Velna reached out and patted Deho's hand with her small blue fingers. You do not have to decide now, but would you let me show you the truth? Would you come with me to see the machines? To understand what is really at stake? Deho looked at Boram. His sister looked scared, but she also looked like she was thinking hard about what Velna had said. Where are these machines? Boram asked. Closer than you think, Velna said. Hidden beneath this very spaceport. My people built secret places all over the galaxy to watch and maintain the wall. This place has been empty for 50 years, waiting for someone worthy to find it. Beneath the spaceport? Deho asked. How is that possible? Velna smiled again. There are many things hidden in your world that humans do not know about yet. But if you are willing to help, I can show you wonders that will change how you see the universe. Boram sighed deeply. If we go with you and look at these machines, you promise Deho does not have to make any decisions right away? I promise, Velna said. But I also must tell you the truth. Time is running short. The wall shows new cracks every day. Soon there will be no choice left to make. Deho stood up and helped Velna to her feet. Then we better go look at these machines. If you are right about the danger, then someone needs to know the truth. As they prepared to leave the apartment, Velna looked at both young humans with something like hope in her glowing eyes. Your species may be young in the galaxy, she said, but you have something most others lost long ago. You still care about strangers. That may be the only thing that can save us all. Velna led Deho and Boram through parts of the spaceport they had never seen before. They went down old maintenance stairs and through heavy doors marked with warning signs in many alien languages. Velna seemed to know exactly where to go, even though she had said she was lost when they first met her. You were not really lost, were you? Boram asked as they walked down a long metal hallway. I was lost in a different way, Velna replied. I knew where the machines were, but I was lost because I could not find anyone willing to help. I sat on that bench for 3 days, hoping someone with a kind heart would notice me. They reached a wall that looked completely solid. Velna pressed her hand against it, and the crystal around her neck began to glow brighter. Suddenly, the wall opened up like a door, revealing a room that took their breath away. The room was huge, much bigger than it should have been possible under the spaceport. The walls were made of some kind of white stone that seemed to glow with its own light. Strange symbols moved across the surfaces like living things. In the center of the room stood machines that looked nothing like human technology. The machines were tall and curved, like giant flowers made of metal and crystal. Lights flowed through them in patterns that hurt to look at directly. The air hummed with power, and both Daeho and Boram could feel something pressing against their minds. "What is this place?" Daeho whispered. "This is a control station for the Galactic Defense Grid," Velna said. She walked to one of the machines and placed both hands on its surface. Immediately, the room filled with holographic images. The images showed space, but not the empty space humans were used to seeing. This space was full of light networks connecting star after star. Lines of energy stretched across the galaxy like a giant web, but many of the lines were broken or flickering weakly. Each line represents a shield barrier, Velna explained. Together they form a wall around our galaxy. Nothing from outside can get through without triggering alarms and defenses. Outside? Boram asked. What is outside our galaxy that we need to be protected from? Velna touched another control and the view changed. Now they could see beyond the edge of their galaxy, into the dark space between galaxies. At first it looked empty. Then Daeho saw them. They moved like giant shadows, but shadows with teeth. The creatures were bigger than planets, flowing through space like liquid darkness. Where they passed, stars went out. Entire solar systems simply disappeared, eaten by the moving darkness. We call them the Devourers, Velna said. They come from the space between galaxies. They eat everything. Stars, planets, all forms of life. They have already consumed 7 other galaxies that we know about. Daeho felt sick looking at them. How many are there? Millions. Maybe billions. They move in groups searching for new galaxies to eat. Our defense grid has kept them away for over 50,000 years. But now, she touched another control. The hologram showed the outer edge of their galaxy. The energy barriers were full of holes. Some areas had no protection at all. The holes are getting bigger every day, Velna said. Without proper maintenance, the entire grid will fail within months. And the Devourers know. Look, the view zoomed out further. In the dark space beyond the galaxy, hundreds of the shadow creatures were gathering. They moved slowly but steadily toward the weakest points in the failing barriers. They are coming, Velna whispered. The first scouts will arrive in less than 6 months. Once they break through and send signals back, the full swarm will follow. Every living thing in our galaxy will be consumed. Boram sat down heavily on a crystal chair that had grown out of the floor. This cannot be real. Where is the Galactic Council? The military? Why does no one else know about this? Velna looked sad. They do know. At least their leaders know. My people sent warnings for centuries. We begged for help, for others to learn how to maintain the grid. But every species had the same answer. What answer? Daeho asked. They said it was not their problem. They said the Luminary had accepted the responsibility, so the Luminary should handle it. When we started dying out, they said it was our own fault for taking on such a dangerous job. But if everyone dies when the grid fails, why would they not help? Boram asked. Because maintaining the grid requires sacrifice, Velna said. The person who operates these machines must link their mind and life force to the system. They feel every attack on the barriers. They experience pain every time something tries to break through. And when the system needs extra power to fight off a major attack, it takes that power from the operator's own life. She showed them another hologram. This one displayed the history of her people. Daeho and Boram watched as generation after generation of Luminary connected themselves to the machines. They saw how each operator grew weak and died young, their life energy drained by the constant effort of protecting the galaxy. My people accepted this sacrifice because we understood the alternative, Velna said, but other species saw only the pain and death. They decided it was better to let us carry the burden alone than risk having to take it on themselves. That is evil, Daeho said angrily. It is fear, Velna replied, but the result is the same. My people are gone and the grid is dying. Boram stood up and walked closer to one of the machines. How does it work exactly? What kind of mind do you need to operate it? Velna joined her beside the machine. The grid responds to consciousness, but not just any consciousness. It needs a mind that can truly care about the welfare of strangers, someone who will feel genuine pain when others suffer, even if they have never met those people. Most aliens cannot do this, Daeho asked. Most species care only about their own kind, or at best their allies. The grid requires someone who can feel responsibility for all life, everywhere. Someone who will sacrifice their own happiness to keep others safe, even if those others will never know or thank them for it. Boram touched the surface of the machine. It felt warm and seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. And you think humans might be able to do this? I think your brother already proved he can. Velna said, looking at Deho. He helped a complete stranger because she needed help, even when everyone else warned him not to. That kind of compassion is exactly what the grid needs. The machine Boram was touching suddenly came alive. Lights flowed up from where her hand rested and she gasped as images filled her mind. For a moment she could sense the entire galaxy. Every living planet, every thinking being, every hope and fear and dream of billions of different species. She pulled her hand away quickly, breathing hard. I could feel them all, she whispered. Everyone. Everything alive. That is what the operators experience constantly, Velna said. It is beautiful but also overwhelming. And when the devourers attack, when beings die, the operators feel all of that pain as if it were happening to them personally. Deho walked to another machine and carefully placed his hand on its surface. The same thing happened to him. Suddenly he was connected to all the life in the galaxy. He could feel the joy of children playing on distant worlds. He could sense the love between families he would never meet. But he could also feel the fear and hunger and sadness of billions of beings. Most overwhelmingly, he could feel the approaching danger. The devourers were like a cold shadow moving toward everything he suddenly cared about. Without thinking, he reached out with his mind, trying to strengthen the failing barriers. The machine responded to his will. For a brief moment, one of the broken shield sections flickered back to life, but the effort left Deho dizzy and weak. Careful, Velna said, helping him step back from the machine. You have the ability, but you are not trained yet. Using the grid without proper preparation can kill you. But I fixed something, did I not? Deho asked. Velna smiled proudly. You did. That section has been dark for 2 years. In 30 seconds you accomplished what my people tried to do for months before we became too weak. Boram looked at her brother with fear and amazement. Deho, this is incredible but also terrifying. If you do this job, you will never have a normal life. What is normal about letting everyone in the galaxy die? Deho asked. Velna is right. Someone has to do this job, and if humans can do it better than others. There is something else you should know, Velna said quietly. Humans may have an advantage that my people never had. What advantage? Boram asked. My people could only produce 1 or 2 operators per generation. The job was too demanding for most of us. But in the short time I have observed humans, I have seen many with the right kind of compassion. If humans worked together, sharing the load, the grid might not have to kill its operators anymore. Deho and Boram looked at each other. The same thought was in both their minds. This was bigger than just helping one old alien lady. This was about saving everyone, and maybe finding a better way to do it. What would we need to do? Deho asked. Word spread quickly once Deho and Boram decided to contact the Earth government. Within 2 days, their small apartment was full of important people. Chang Min, a serious man from the Korean government, sat across from Velna asking detailed questions. Mi Young, a military strategist, took notes on everything the old luminary said about the devourers and the defense grid. Let me understand this correctly, Chang Min said. You are telling us that our entire galaxy is about to be invaded by creatures that eat planets, and the only thing that can stop them is a defense system that requires someone to sacrifice their life to operate it. Not sacrifice their life immediately, Velna corrected. But yes, the operators usually die young because of the strain. However, I believe humans might be different. Mi Young looked up from her notes. Different how? Your species shows more natural compassion for strangers than any other I have encountered. And more importantly, you seem able to work together when facing big problems. My people tried to handle the grid alone, but if humans could share the burden among many operators, the load would be spread out. Deho finished. No single person would have to carry all the pain. Chang Min frowned. This all sounds like science fiction. How do we know you are telling the truth? Velna stood up slowly. Come with me to the control room again. Bring your experts. Let them examine the machines and the data. Over the next week, teams of Earth's best scientists, military leaders, and alien relations experts visited the hidden chamber beneath the spaceport. The evidence was overwhelming. The defense grid was real. It was failing, and the devourers were coming. Dr. Wu Jin, an engineer who specialized in alien technology, spent 3 days studying the grid machines. The technology is incredible, he reported to the government team. It is at least 1,000 years ahead of anything we have seen. And the energy readings confirm what Velna told us. The system is failing rapidly. Sun He, a xenoarchaeologist, had been researching luminary history in the galactic databases. Their records check out, she said. The Luminari really did maintain this system for thousands of years. And other species really did avoid helping them. There are even some government documents where alien leaders specifically decided not to get involved. Why would they choose to let everyone die rather than help? Mi Young asked. Fear of responsibility, Sun He replied. According to the records, several species tried to help the Luminari in the past. But when they realized what the job actually required, they backed out. They said it was better to let the Luminari handle it than risk having their own people suffer. Changmin looked disgusted. So they let an entire species die to avoid doing a difficult job themselves. And now the job needs to be done anyway, Daeho added. Except now there is no one left who knows how to do it properly. Except me, Velna said quietly. I am the last one who remembers the training. But I am too old and weak to operate the grid myself. I can only teach others. The government officials had many meetings over the next few days. They talked to alien ambassadors, military leaders, and scientists from around Earth. The response was always the same. This was too important to ignore, but too dangerous for most people to volunteer for. Then something unexpected happened. News of the situation leaked to the public. Despite government efforts to keep it secret, the story spread across Earth's communication networks. Within hours, everyone knew about the defense grid, the devourers, and the need for human operators. The response shocked everyone. Thousands of people volunteered immediately. Not just soldiers or scientists, but ordinary people. Teachers, shop workers, students, parents. They all said the same thing. If someone needed to do this job to save everyone, then they wanted to help. Hyun Woo, a representative from the Global Council, came to visit Daeho personally. Young man, you have started something incredible. We have never seen a response like this to a call for volunteers. Because we understand what is at stake, Daeho replied. This is not about being heroes. This is about doing what needs to be done. But are you sure you want to be the first? Hyunwoo asked. We can train other people. You do not have to put yourself at risk. Daeho looked at Velna, who had been staying with his family during all the meetings. The old Luminari woman had grown weaker each day, but her eyes still glowed with hope when she looked at him. I am the one who found her, Daeho said. I am the one she taught first. And I am the one who can feel the grid responding to me. If I do not do this, who will? Boram, who had been quiet during most of the meetings, finally spoke up. If my brother does this, he will not do it alone. I felt the grid respond to me too. I want to be trained as a backup operator. And me, said Wu Jin. I understand the technology better than anyone else now. I can help maintain the machines while others operate them. Count me in too, added Sun He. Someone needs to continue researching Luminari history. There might be other secrets that can help us. More volunteers came forward every day. Hyunji, a young engineering student, proved to have exceptional natural ability with the grid controls. Taewoo, a former soldier, showed incredible mental discipline when connected to the system. Jinie, a nurse, had exactly the kind of caring personality that the grid seemed to respond to best. Within 2 weeks, Earth had assembled a team of 50 potential operators. Felna began training them immediately, even though she was growing weaker each day. I do not understand, she said to Daeho one evening. In all my people's history, we never found this many individuals capable of operating the grid. How is your species so different? Daeho thought about it. Maybe because we are still young. Most alien species we meet seem tired and focused only on their own problems. Humans still think we can fix things, still want to help others even when it is hard. Or maybe, Boram added, it is because we are used to working together. Other species seem to think individuals should handle big problems alone. But humans have always known that some jobs are too big for one person. Velna smiled. Whatever the reason, you give me hope that this plan might actually work. The plan was simple but ambitious. Instead of having one operator connected to the entire grid, humans would create teams. Multiple operators would share the mental load, supporting each other when the strain became too much. Engineers would maintain the machines while historians researched better methods. The entire system would be managed as a cooperative effort. But there is still danger, Velna warned them. When the Devourers attack in force, even shared among many operators, the pain and strain will be terrible. Some of you may not survive. Some of us will not survive if we do nothing, Daeho replied. At least this way, we have a chance to save everyone else. Mi Young had been working on military aspects of the plan. We also need to prepare Earth's defenses, she said. If the Devourers break through in some areas, we need to be ready to fight them directly. Direct fighting will not work, Velna said sadly. These creatures are too big, too powerful. The only weapon that can stop them is the grid itself. Then we better make sure the grid does not fail, Changmin said grimly. As the training continued, other alien species began to take notice. Some were impressed by humanity's willingness to take on such a dangerous responsibility. Others were suspicious, wondering what humans hoped to gain. A few alien ambassadors even tried to discourage the project. You do not understand the curse you are accepting, warned the Vorthak representative. This responsibility destroyed the Luminari. It will destroy you too. Maybe, Deho replied during one diplomatic meeting. But if we do not try, it will destroy everyone anyway. At least this way, some good might come from our sacrifice. By the end of the month, the first group of human operators was ready for their final test. They would attempt to fully activate one section of the defense grid and hold it stable for 24 hours. Velna, now so weak she could barely stand, gathered them in the control chamber. Remember, she told them, you are not just operating machines. You are protecting every living thing in the galaxy. Feel that responsibility, but do not let it overwhelm you. Support each other, share the burden, and trust that your compassion is strong enough to power the greatest defense system ever built. Deho took his position at the primary control interface. Around him, the other operators prepared to link their minds to the grid. Outside, Mi-young and her team monitored for any sign of Devourer activity. Are you ready? Velna asked. Deho placed his hands on the machine and felt the familiar surge of connection to all life in the galaxy. But this time he was not alone. He could feel Boram's steady presence beside him, Yunji's quick intelligence supporting him, and the compassionate strength of dozens of other human minds joining with his. We are ready, he said. The test was about to begin. The activation was like nothing Deho had ever experienced. As soon as he and the other human operators fully connected their minds to the defense grid, the entire galaxy seemed to come alive around them. He could feel every star, every planet, every living being connected through the network of energy barriers. But more importantly, he could feel his fellow humans supporting him. When the strain of maintaining the barriers became too much, Boram would strengthen her connection and take some of the load. When complex calculations threatened to overwhelm his mind, Yunji's quick thinking would help solve the problems. When the sheer emotional weight of protecting billions of lives became crushing, Jine's nurturing spirit would remind him why they were doing this. It is working, Velna whispered from her chair near the control center. The old luminary woman was so weak now that she could barely lift her head, but her glowing eyes were bright with amazement. The grid sections are coming back online, sections that have been dark for years. Dr. Wu Jin monitored the technical readouts with excitement. Energy levels are stable. Actually, they are better than stable. The efficiency is 30% higher than the historical records show. That is because we are doing it together, Deho said, his voice distant as part of his mind remained connected to the vast network. The Luminari tried to handle everything alone, but humans work better as teams. The test continued for the full 24 hours. By the end, not only had they successfully reactivated dead sections of the grid, but they had actually strengthened barriers that had been weak for decades. The human operators were tired, but none of them had suffered the severe damage that had always affected Luminari operators. Impossible, breathed Sun-Hee as she reviewed the data. According to every historical record, a full day of grid operation should have killed at least half the operators. But you all seem fine. Not fine, Boram said with a tired smile. Exhausted, but alive and ready to do it again. News of the successful test spread quickly through both human and alien communication networks. The response was mixed. Most humans were proud and excited that their species had found a solution to the galaxy's greatest threat. But many alien species reacted with suspicion and fear. They cannot possibly maintain this, declared the Clixian ambassador during an emergency Galactic Council meeting. No species is capable of operating the defense grid without destroying themselves. The humans will fail, and when they do, we will all die because we trusted them. What choice do we have? Asked the representative from the Nabari coalition. The grid was already failing. At least the humans are trying to fix it. But what do they want in return? Demanded the Vorthak delegate. No species does such work without expecting payment or power. The humans must have some hidden agenda. These debates continued for weeks while Daiho and his team worked to bring more sections of the defense grid back online. Every day they discovered new problems that needed fixing, barriers that needed rebuilding, and warning systems that had been offline for years. And every day, the approaching devourers came closer. First contact in 3 weeks, reported Taewoo during one of their daily briefings. His job was monitoring the outer sensors for signs of the enemy. Long-range scans show at least 50 scouts moving toward the weakest point in our defenses. Are we ready? Asked Myung. Daeho considered the question carefully. They had restored about 60% of the defense grid to full function. The remaining sections were either partially working or completely offline. We are as ready as we can be, he said. But this will be our first real test against actual devourers. Velna, now so weak that she spent most of her time sleeping, stirred from her rest. Remember, she said softly, the devourers are not just physically dangerous. They attack the mind as well. When they sense the grid operators, they will try to fill your thoughts with despair and fear. That is how they broke through our defenses in other galaxies. We will be ready, promised Yunji. We have practiced mental defense techniques, and we will support each other. The final 3 weeks passed quickly. More human volunteers arrived from Earth to serve as backup operators and support staff. Alien military forces, despite their doubts about human ability, positioned themselves near the expected breakthrough points. Everyone understood that this battle would determine the fate of the entire galaxy. When the first Devourer scout finally reached the outer barriers, Daeho and his team were ready. The moment of contact was terrible. Through the grid, Daeho could feel the scout testing the barriers, looking for weak points. But worse than its physical probing was its mental attack. Suddenly his mind was filled with images of death and destruction. He saw planets being consumed, civilizations ending, endless dark emptiness spreading across the stars. Do not listen to it, Boram said through their mental connection. Remember why we are here. With effort, Daeho pushed aside the nightmare visions and focused on the barrier controls. The scout was incredibly strong, but the defense grid was stronger. Energy weapons that had slept for years came online, targeting the creature with beams of pure force. The scout tried to retreat, but it was too late. The grid's weapons tore through its dark substance, destroying it completely. Through long-range sensors, the human operators could see the creature's destruction send ripples of shock through the other scouts waiting in deep space. Down, reported Taewoo with satisfaction, but the victory came at a cost. 3 of the human operators had been overwhelmed by the scout's mental attack and had to be disconnected from the grid. They were alive but exhausted and shaken. This is what I feared, Velna said sadly. The Devourers learn from each encounter. The next attack will be stronger, she was right. Over the following days, more scouts approached the barriers. Each one was more cunning than the last. Each one's mental attacks more focused and vicious. The human operators learned to work in shifts with fresh minds replacing tired ones before anyone became too vulnerable. But they were winning. Every Devourer scout that reached the barriers was destroyed. More importantly, the scouts' deaths were sending a clear message back to the main swarm. This galaxy was protected again. Long-range sensors show the main Devourer force changing course, reported Taewoo 3 weeks after the first attack. They are moving away from our galaxy. The relief in the control room was overwhelming. They had done it. The defense grid was working, and the Devourers were retreating to look for easier prey. But their success created a new problem. Alien species throughout the galaxy, seeing that humans could indeed operate the defense grid effectively, began making demands and requests. Some wanted humans to also provide other kinds of protection. Others insisted that humans should share grid control with their species. A few even suggested that humans had become too powerful and should be stopped. They are afraid of us now, observed Hyunwoo during a meeting with Earth's leadership. Before, they ignored the defense grid problem because they thought it was hopeless. Now they see humans succeeding where everyone else failed, and they worry about what that means for galactic politics. Let them worry, said Changmin firmly. We did not take on this responsibility to gain power over others. We did it to save everyone, including them. If they want to help, they are welcome. If they want to cause trouble, they can explain to their own people why they are interfering with the galaxy's defenses. Daeho agreed. We need to stay focused on our real job. The Devourers will be back someday, probably in larger numbers. We need to keep improving the grid and training more operators. And so the Guardian Academy was born. Built near the original control chamber beneath New Sol Spaceport, it became Earth's center for training defense grid operators and support staff. Students came not just from Korea, but from all over Earth. They learned the technical skills needed to maintain the massive defense network, but more importantly, they learned the mental discipline required to feel compassion for billions of strangers while staying strong enough to protect them. Yoonji became one of the Academy's first instructors, teaching new students how to share mental loads and support each other during difficult operations. Jin-ae developed training programs for the medical staff who cared for operators after long shifts. Woojin led teams of engineers in building improved interfaces between human minds and luminary technology. Velna lived just long enough to see the Academy's first graduation ceremony. As she watched dozens of young humans take their oaths as grid guardians, her final words were, "The galaxy is safe. The kindness of strangers has saved us all." Years passed. The defense grid grew stronger under human care, not weaker. New technologies were developed that made the operator's job safer and more efficient. Other alien species, seeing the success of the human approach, began sending their own volunteers to train at the Academy. Not all of them could handle the mental demands of grid operation, but many could serve as support staff engineers or researchers. The Devourers returned several times, but each attack was weaker than the last. Word spread through the dark spaces between galaxies that this galaxy was well defended. Easier prey could be found elsewhere. Daeho, now in his 30s and the Academy's director, often thought about that day when he first saw an old alien woman sitting alone on a bench.